Hey everybody, ronarray here, and after GGG released loot saving patch, there have been a lot of additional potential for new farming techniques, and one of them, and a pretty promising one, is farming bosses in maps. So in this video, I'm going to showcase everything that I learned when I tried to farm bosses, and going to showcase a setup that you can use to farm bosses yourself, which is pretty cheap and pretty effective to receive a lot of good items. Let's go! So in this strategy, we're going to utilize farming bosses together with buffs from Admira wisps. All of that should provide a very huge amount of variety and quantity for bosses, and bosses will drop a lot of high-tiered rare items. They're currently not dropping crazy amount of currency, you're still going to receive a decent amount of exaltats per each boss and sometimes chaos orbs, but I don't think it's going to lead to too many divines. However, the rares that bosses are dropping usually roll very high tier modifiers, and a lot of them will easily sell for at least a few divines each. So that could be a very good mechanic to farm if you're aiming to utilize the market for your advantage and get the currency from it. It also can be pretty good if you need rare items yourself, so it will be pretty easy to find an upgrade and stuff like that. Right now, we're going to use a few cool things to make sure our drops is maximized. First off, you will need perfectly finished map boss skill tree, but if you will have like 8 points, it will be fine if you never fought the Arbiter. So to get the next points for your map skill tree, you will need to finish map boss in area level 82. To get area level 82, you can utilize tier 16 map together with cleansed area and bonus from organized forces or irradiated. So you will need to use one or another. That way, if you already have organized force, even non-irradiated area together with tier 16 and together with cleans, it's going to give you additional points for your boss tree. And in the boss tree, the most important part is that you need to take Fit for King for rarity from bosses and Spoils of War for quantity for bosses. Like, getting radiant waystones is significantly less important, but if you will have additional points, just going up and taking organized forces could be a great way. However, if you don't have enough points, you can still just run Fit for King and Spoils of War. And the rest of the atlas for boss farming mechanics is pretty much basic. We're just taking all bonuses for precursor tablets, because those are going to improve our loot in general. We're also taking remnants of power. And after that we're going for Admira wisps, because all our bosses are going to be possessed by Admira wisps. So all bosses for wisps are going to improve the whole situation for us. Mostly right here we're interested in Shining Trail. It gives 25% increased rarity of items dropped by possessed monsters in your maps. And they can also release Spirit on Death. That bonus includes bosses, so that could be a pretty good multiplier for our loot. We're also going to have Merging Worlds here. Just to have one monster on your maps is possessed by Sacred Spirit, it also can be possessed by another random spirit, which is pretty nice. And choosing the type of Admira spirits, I don't think it's too important, but I took Primal Flow, because I think it could lead to more intelligence-related items, and intelligence-related items right now can provide pretty good bonuses in terms of currency that we can sell them for, because a lot of people are playing Energy Shield. Another important part that I think, if you want to utilize that, taking unstable energies could be a very good idea. In that case, you can always drop magic pack size and just spend 3 points right here to take unstable energies. Unstable energies can give you more rarity and quantity in your maps, so that could be recommended at some situations. And to the left we're still taking rare monsters and rare bonuses just for the map itself to be a little more profitable, because the rest of the buffs are not really improving our whole situation. If you don't want to clear your maps at all and just want to focus on bosses, I recommend to drop a few more points here and just take rarity right here, and changing the pack size together with all those bonuses you can just invest into all possible explicit modifiers. So if you just want to run bosses I think something like that is probably the best idea. That way you can just run to the boss in the map and go out after the boss is finished. And if you want to still farm maps at least a little for small bonuses here and there, I feel like getting a little pack size together with rare monster bonuses is pretty much mandatory to feel more comfortable. So, talking about the rest of the setup, we're going to utilize a lot of new tablets for it, and some of them been just added this league. It's Cruel Hegemony together with Season of the Hunt. Season of the Hunt, the main one that been added because we have Azmiri Spirits now, and that's the most important tablet in the whole setup. We're buffing it for map bosses are hunted by Azmiri Spirits, which is going to multiply our loot from bosses significantly. And after that, we're also going to use Cruel Hegemony, which will give map bosses +1 additional modifier. Keep in mind that you can stack different Cruel Hegemony tablets together, leading to more and more modifiers at bosses. But keep in mind that those bosses could be a little too tanky, so if you're not sure how good your damage is against single target, don't stack too much. And for the rest of the tablets, we will have options like basic boss tablets such as quantity of items dropped by map bosses, such as precursor tablets just for rarity of items dropped by my bosses, and more rarity like that as well. Another interesting idea is just to use at least one irradiated setup with pretty much any bonus that you can get. It doesn't really matter, but if you can get like quantity from irradiated, it would be just perfect. So something like that would be a really good addition to the setup. That way, since your rarity is going to be significantly increased by Azmiri Spirits, I recommend to stack as many quantity of items dropped by bosses and irradiated bonuses for quantity in general, while getting a few Cruel Hegemony tablets as well. So let me showcase the approximate setup that I've been using myself to test it. So here, for example, is the map that I've been using. It have about 30% increased quantity of items dropped by map bosses. Map bosses are hunted by Azmiri Spirits, and map bosses have 2 additional modifiers. There's also additional quantity of items on the zone itself and irradiated bonus, so the zone going to be higher level. Higher level of the zone pretty often lead to better loot from bosses themselves, and like better items are going to drop for you, so I recommend to run irradiated pretty often. If you have more currency, you can also try to use another tablet such as Vision of Paradise to farm your bosses twice, and that way it could feel a little better if your tower setup is not too big. But currently I just been running that. I think adding more bosses modifiers could be a great multiplier, and probably more quantity of items from bosses themselves. But even like that, bosses are going to drop tremendous amount of items, and most of them will have very good modifiers, so it's pretty easy to find good ones. Another interesting moment that you will need to check the items on the ground too, so if your loot filter is pretty strict, make sure you're clicking Alt and checking at least good bases, because pretty often my loot filter, for example, just hiding good items that could sell for some particular amount of currency. And you don't really need to stack anything else. The only recommendation would be just improving Hegemony tablets and stacking that on all your towers across the ways. That farming tech is very simple and it's not really requiring a lot of setup. If you can have 2 towers or even 1 tower, you can still farm it. Just make sure that you have Season of the Hunt tablet together with at least 1 Cruel Hegemony and perfectly like additional quantity for items. That's pretty much it. On top of it, just add irradiated if you can, and even more quantity, because rarity is mostly coming from wisps, but you can still add 1 or 2 tablets with rarity. I hope you will be able to drop many cool rare items using that, because yesterday I farmed multiple divines just by dropping random items and selling them pretty quickly, because even on current market, if you underprice items, they're selling very fast. And I hope you will get some luck with it as well. Thank you very much for watching as usual, and after that I'm probably going to test even more mechanics with new loot patch, because I think there's a lot of potential right now for different farming techniques. Go drop a mirror, everybody, and see you next time. ronarray out.